We're back. We're live. What's up? Post that shit. Let's go. Now let's play Retro Rewind. Ooh. Oh boy. Ah. Is there an update for Retro Rewind? Small update thing? It does not seem so. Let's launch the game. CPL did post a teaser though about adding Noko Noko Beach into the game. Noko Noko Beach, a beta course from the DS. Mario Kart DS, that is. True to the title of the show. Jesus. Fuck me, dude. True to the title of this stream, there will be goofy politics. It might just take a little bit for me to get started. Oh boy. Alright. Yes. Alright, Retro Worldwide. Who do I want to pick? Let's do Dry Bowser this time. Go back to some good old Dry Bowser. Or rather, Dragonite. Oh, man. Please wait a moment. Yes. You know, I've actually kind of had a hard time going back to, or would have a hard time going back to Funky Kong, just in terms of how he plays. Like, obviously, his aesthetic being on the Flame Runner is probably one of the coolest looking things in the game. And yeah, he has the speed stat and stuff, but online I feel like weight and mini turbo matter almost as much, if not more, right? Like, Wario and Dragonite, Wario and Dry Bowser. So for me, Heracross and Dragonite both have a really good mini turbo stat. They basically get on the Flame Runner as long of mini turbos as Mach Bike characters do, while going a little bit faster than the Mach Bike. So that mitigates the damage on each corner. You know? So for tracks that have a lot of turns, that and some mid-length straightaways, those that character vehicle combo, either Mach Bike or Wario or Dry Bowser on the Flame Runner, are incredibly good. Although for tracks that have longer straightaways, you think of tracks like Calamari Desert. Basically, on tracks that are more friendly to the spear, Funky Kong Flame Runner is going to be the best pick. You know, if you don't go with the spear, the spear just doesn't offer that kind of control. But if it's a you know, relatively wide turn, long straightaway track, then Funky Flame Runner is the pick. If it is a much more turny, sort of short straightaway track, like something like Neo Bowser City, then you want either Mach Bike or Dry Bowser or Wario. get into it. Let's try to get back into shape here. Oh my god. That green shell was very close. Alright. There you go. Luigi was smart, and I tried to, I was being considerate of Luigi there. I think I know where I want to use this. Maybe. Ow. That assumes that there's not going to... Oh, well. I was going to say, that assumes that there's not going to be another shock, but I guess a POW would do it as well. Here, you go on the inside. Yeah. I jumped a little bit too late. I overestimated how much space I had to work with on that end of things. I'm going to chain this first set. Starting to triple shrooms is pretty good. Ow. It's 7th place box. Let's go. What? I swear that was smart bounce. Alright, well, a very, very messy 5th place. Alright. First race back, there's bound to be some hiccups. Let's go. Okay. There was something I wanted to talk about specifically for YouTube this time. I did mention it last time, but it revolves around Kamala Harris's campaign. And it's a little bit of a critique that I have of them. So a little while ago, they did a rally. They've been very active campaigning, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. And this was kind of like the unveiling of their economic policy platform to a degree. Now, I guess in some way I got my hopes up a little bit, as did I think a few other people, but needless to say, they disappointed. You know, that's kind of expected because they're liberals. I still hope that Tim Walz has a very active policy role because he is a significantly better liberal than Kamala Harris. But regardless, the main kicker of that policy reveal thing, oh, the Troy Strat, let's go, was basically that Kamala Harris intended to start a federal housing stipend for first-time home buyers. You know, like $25,000 down payment stipend, effectively. And initially I thought, like, well, that could be okay. But then it took me like a minute, and I was like, no, you know what? That's stupid, actually. You know? And the reason that it's stupid is that it focuses on homeownership. Now, I know a lot of people have this sort of go-to parrot line, kind of like a canned line about buying a home being the American dream, but let's be real. Home ownership, the concept of owning a house as a commodity, is the reason that the housing crisis exists at all. Many people have been like, man, how did this happen? And, everybody has a certain kind of canned answer. The reason that housing bubbles exist, the reason that housing rises and crashes and stuff in the way that it does, is because it is a speculative investment vehicle. It's not treated as the necessity that it is. And as a result, that incentivizes all sorts of, gambling, speculation, treating it like it is a speculative investment product rather than something that people absolutely need. It's basically subject to the same incentives that something like healthcare is, where it is an inelastic product. There is always going to be a demand for it because people will die of exposure without it. So there's no limit to how expensive it can get. And that results in a massive crisis. And it's exacerbated by the fact that there's like all sorts of government programs that incentivize that sort of treatment of housing. There are, granted, some good like rent control, rent stabilization, affordable housing programs, but they're not very large. They're not wide ranging enough, and it doesn't help that there are a lot of programs as well that focus on home ownership, something that is driving the housing crisis time and again. This is the kind of liberal policymaking that is liberal in the worst sense, as in it is the kind of capitalism that lays the ground for fascism to arise. Basically, you have liberal economic policy in the form of we should encourage home ownership, basically pandering to like a perceived middle class of people, completely neglecting the working class, treating essential things as commodities, which inevitably creates economic insecurity and, dire economic conditions, alienation, etc., widens the income inequality gap, creates a lot of debt on the part of people, and channels wealth upward. And then as a result of that, you get capitalism in crisis, and that's how fascism arises. It sounds like a kind of a tenuous connection to draw, but I assure you that when people say that fascism is liberalism in crisis or fascism is capitalism in crisis, in decay, this is what they mean. Economic policy of liberalism being insufficient in addressing the needs of working people. For example, focusing on home ownership rather than renting is not going to solve the housing crisis. It's only going to make it worse. Because at the end of the day, this is, the Democratic Party is not a party of the working class. It's the best alternative that we have. It's the best, electoral option that's available. But it is still a party of the owning class. It's still a party of the capital class. And that's reflected in them being like, how do we fix the housing crisis? I know, we'll give homeowners a stipend for buying a new house. Like, no. You have just recreated the problem. You've put some, like, means-tested liberal policy wonkery as a front to something that will just make houses more expensive. And not in the way that Republicans have been saying either, where it's like, oh, well, that just means that houses are going to be $25,000 more expensive. No, what it does mean is that, like, you might get some price increases like that. It's not going to be nearly as direct. What it's going to do is further entrench housing as something that is a market commodity and subject to the market mechanisms of supply and demand and private development, etc., etc. And it's going to further gatekeep people out of buying a house because it's like, or not buying a house, out of getting a home because it's a sort of neglecting of renters. A policy platform that centers homeowners is a policy platform that is not centering renters. Also, I got blown up this race. Should have gone mock bike. Does that make sense? Because it's not like when you buy a house either. It's not like you own the house once you buy it. Motherfucker, you put a down payment and then you pay a mortgage for 30 years. Yeah, thank you, Xylon. Okay. You're just paying rent for 30 years after paying a large sum of money up front. The day-to-day of owning a house is not different very much from the day-to-day of renting a house or renting an apartment. All it does is sort of alter the property relations a little bit in such a way that the value of that house will constantly go up and up and up and become less and less affordable. And then you get the housing crisis again and again and again and again. 2008 was not the first time that there was a housing crisis. It will not be the last time either. And it's because we treat housing like we do. Like it's a thing that you can own. It'd be like the, castle doctrine and shit. Much has been made as well of like, what would alternatives to this be? I know it's very easy for me to talk shit about home ownership and like people using housing as a form of capital as like a nest egg. But then like the key question is like, what do you replace that with? And it's like, well, relatively easy answer if somewhat gargantuan, and that is that you have to have land and housing be owned publicly in common in the form of either a public trust or owned by the municipal government or whatever, and it be rented out for really, really cheap. All that to say, I do not care for the housing policy that Kamala Harris unveiled. But, anybody in my audience who considers themselves a liberal, calm your tits, because I'm still going to vote for the Democratic ticket. That doesn't make me a Trump supporter, It's just that, the best alternative isn't necessarily a good option. One thing I've consistently read to this effect, too, in some of the affordable housing studies that I've read, is that it relatively consistently, the kind of affordable housing that it's easy to keep affordable are renting units, like houses for rent, apartments for rent, rather than like row homes or standalone houses that you would purchase and then own, the initial cost being somewhat lower, because that pipeline of purchasing a house, living there for a while, then selling it, inevitably leads to the cost of that house increasing and increasing and increasing. Whereas with rent, there are things that you can do that sort of cap rent. Be it direct rent control, which obviously has some mixed effects on the housing units around it, but does affect the unit itself, or through like surrounding factors of city planning that bring down the costs of housing, like increasing supply, making sure amenities are very accessible nearby. But ultimately, what it all comes back to is that like private ownership of housing is always going to create some very perverse incentives to have housing be like devilishly expensive. If housing is owned by the government, it tends to be a lot cheaper. And you actually, if you have housing owned by the government, you actually avoid some of the weird incentives that you get with rent-controlled housing that's owned privately. Like, sometimes with private landlords, I know that some people have argued against rent control by saying that, like, there are private landlords who can just opt to not maintain their housing anyway, if it's, like, rent-controlled units or whatever. And there are two things that I have to say to that, because it is a, valid point to bring up in a discussion like this. Number one, landlords who don't maintain rent-controlled units would also not be maintaining their units if they were not rent-controlled. Because usually in rent-controlled units, it like the government kind of subsidizes some of the expenses of running and managing properties. But then the other thing is that if that's the way it's going to be, then that presents a fantastic opportunity to just not have private ownership of housing at all, because the government, while it is obviously very flawed in a lot of ways, does not have the same kind of profit incentives that a private owner would of a like a housing complex or a business or whatever. This is why the enshittification of things like the post office has entailed them being privatized. This is why privatization was such a huge thing, is because the government actually doesn't have as big of a profit incentive as private corporations do. In fact, a lot of government services operate at a loss. That's why it's impossible to compete with government services. The government can just operate at a loss, make up the difference with taxes, and then that's a downward distribution of wealth. They can basically have the rich subsidize the poor, which is what you want in a society where such concepts exist. Anyways, that was a big mouthful. The bottom line is, housing stipends are dumb if they are come in the form of like, oh yeah, we'll give you some assistance on your down payment, because that encourages the ownership of houses, which makes housing costs go up, and it discourages renting, which renting is a good avenue for creating more affordable housing. And it would be good for a public housing model as well. So, you know, cringe liberalism, but cringe liberalism is better than fascism, and ultimately the only thing that I'm concerned about right now with that is that it gives us more breathing room to basically critique that same liberalism. When the only two options are a liberal and a fascist, you vote for the liberal so that you can mock them ruthlessly once they are in office, offer them critical support, and nudge them to the left. Long segment, longer than I would have liked it to be. Future me cut it there. Yeah. Nice. Ah, this track. This is a pretty good Flame Runner track. Not that many tight turns. What? Damn, that guy had to veer all the way to the right to hit me like that. Really? Oh, that guy's smart. He's going backwards for an item. Mario Kart be like that. Yeah, it do. Okay. I'm gonna use these mushrooms to get up to the next item set. Alright, cool. Alright, kind of have to use this here. Random little moon jump there. One mushroom. Oh, perfect. Not perfect! God damn it. I'm kind of bad at this game on the Flame Runner, I'm now realizing. One mushroom in last. Thanks, game. Really love that. Shit-ass race. Undeniably a shit-ass race. Uh, that track, I take back what I said about that being a Flame Runner track. That is decidedly a mock bike track. You do not have control over your vehicle unless you're on the mock bike. God damn. You know, there was something that I saw recently as well on the subject of economics. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that today. Economics and well, there's some party politics too, but this is 2 for 2 on economics. The Republican Party, some people might not remember this if you're young enough. If you're older, you'll remember this. The Republican Party used to talk a lot about fiscal responsibility, or at least what they billed as fiscal responsibility, which was basically, yeah, the government shouldn't spend money on anything, and we should let poor people languish. Because that way, the government saves money. And a key component of this sort of platform is basically the austerity politics of the United States, was they would constantly talk about balancing the national budget, you know, like debts, deficit, that sort of thing. And they would often talk about how large the national debt is, because the U.S. does have a lot of debt. You know, we are in a lot of debt to a lot of countries, a lot of companies, a lot of people. And that was very easy for Republicans to make a low-hanging fruit out of when the policy discourse or the political discourse in the 2010s, what, God damn it, I just wasn't looking at the screen, was dictated more by policy wonkery than it is right now. I mean, it was still dictated by vibes in large part. Politics always has been. But back when the Republicans actually had some sort of policy to speak of, that's what they would talk about. So you have these talking points about the national debt, and recently they've actually resurged. Republicans have had to dip back into the previously incredibly unpopular and still pretty unpopular economic talking points. I'm getting bean cornered on this track to distract from the more fascist-leaning reactionary talking points, which is ironic considering that the reason that the Republicans started engaging with reactionism to begin with is because they knew that that would serve as a good distraction from the economic platform that they had, because austerity politics was massively unpopular and still is, you know, to this day. But I for the first time, I looked on Twitter and recognized the sort of national debt talking points for what it was, and that is just doomsday prophesizing. It's probably because I've been exposed to a lot more of these like stupid religious talking points lately, because that's the direction that Republicans have been going in. But ultimately, the Republicans talking about the national debt is just a non-religious like form of the doomsday prophecy. Like, oh, the world is going to end, you know, it is the end times and all that shit. Like, the Republicans are just the guy on the street corner saying the end is near, God hates fags or whatever, but wearing a suit and in the halls of Congress and you know, doing that about like the budget instead of like some sort of mythologized biblical end times. It is just as mythical and just as not real. You know? I don't know how to do that shortcut. And I beat somebody. Because the national debt has been huge for a long time. That's just how economic politics works. We live in a debt economy, and that debt economy is global. And the United States is a global debtor. That is the source of our economic power, is that we can take loans and use the capital from those loans to invest and gain economic influence or exert economic influence over certain places. And we also give loans as a form of economic power. You know, think the World Bank and the IMF. Giving loans to smaller countries is a very powerful tool. It is a very exploitative tool, but a powerful one nonetheless. And us being in so much debt to so many countries, people, and corporations means that if we default on any of those debts, the world is fucked. So we will never default on those debts because nobody wants us to default on those debts. That shit is made up. We all made it up, and none of us want it to end. Whatever the rules say, it does not matter what the rules say. Any circumstances that would otherwise lead to the U.S. defaulting on debts will not lead to that because every single person that is involved with or tangentially connected to that debt does not want the U.S. to default. They will extend the deadline. They'll give us extra loans, whatever, because we owe that much money to so many people. It just goes back to the Vladimir Lenin quote. He talked about this in the 1910s, in the age of what he called high imperialism. If you owe the bank $100,000, the bank owns you. Such is the case nowadays with third world countries, the IMF, the World Bank, etc. If you owe the bank $100 million, you own the bank. Because now you have them tied on the end of the string. If you don't pay back the debt, they're fucked. Or if you default on the debt, then that's money they can no longer act as though they have, and they're fucked. Ooh. Good spot to get blue shelled. And of course, that's even without me mentioning that Republicans conveniently neglect the component of the national debt where more than 50% of it, I believe 60-something percent of the national debt is owed by the American government to the American people. The national debt was not, is not the solution to austerity politics. It is like, or, let me rephrase this. Cutting government spending is not the solution to the problem, it is what caused the problem in the first place. Part of the thing that has ballooned the part of the debt that the US doesn't want to have is us underfunding the snot out of our social services. Because like I've explored in other video segments before, that just means that we, run up a backlog of bills to pay and whatever, and it results in like money being drained out of the economy. It results in people going into debt. It results in governments going into debt because they have no money to spend on things that they need to spend money on. And it prevents the government from investing in things that pay themselves back over the long run. There are certain public services in America that if you invest like $1 billion in them, you will get $10 billion back. Like, it's that much of an investment. And the fact that the United States government for the longest time swore off the model of invest in things that we need to invest in. Don't worry about the source of the money. We're the most powerful country in the fucking world. Is what put us so deep in debt in the first place. You could cut the national debt in half by spending more money. But Republicans don't want to do that. Because they don't actually care. And again, for them, it's a doomsday prophecy shtick. And that also requires them to invest in the public sector and distribute wealth downwards and take money from rich people. So they don't want to do that either. It's kind of like a less spelled out version of what Trump did with the border in I think it was just earlier this year, where he essentially said, I don't want it to be fixed. I want it to be a problem that I can campaign on. That's the Republican mindset to the national budget, the debt, the deficit, etc. They don't want to fix it. They want it to be a problem that they can blame the Democrats for, that they can blame the left for, even though the left has never held power ever. And Democrats for their part are marginally better at handling the budget than Republicans are. Like you can just look at like public record stuff to be able to see that. But at the end of the day, they're still buying into large sections of those myths about fiscal responsibility and balancing the checkbooks. Like, motherfucker, we are America. What makes us America is that we don't need to balance those checkbooks. Just fucking go crazy with it, you know? To a certain degree, to I guess a somewhat lesser degree, it's actually the same with a lot of other wealthy countries. You might not be able to get away with the exact same degree of tomfoolery with the debt that America can, because America is literally on top of the whole heap. But if you're say France or Italy or Germany, you know, relatively wealthy country in Europe, you can just decide, like, yeah, what if we just didn't pay back these debts and instead spent more money on public services that we know will pay themselves off in like 30 years, and then, you know, you take that portfolio and say, hey, now give us more loans. It's like an infinite money glitch that the Democrats and Republicans both don't want to use. I'm just getting absolutely mopped the floor with this race. No item. That's a shame. Oh my god, this vehicle can't drift. Okay. Oh my god, dude. I know that, like, this has to be stream sniping. There's no way everybody's hitting me this hard, not knowing, like... Alright. I'm hitting all you fuckers. Or maybe not. That's a good place for the bullets to drop me. I can get an item here. Fucking janky-ass section. Jesus Christ, I have no control over my vehicle. What is going on? Hello? You better not throw a fucking bomb again, I swear. Alright. Dude, I wish my weather widget would stop doing this. Stop! I have a little, thing on the bottom left of my desktop that is, it's like a widgets tab. It shows what the weather is outside, but sometimes it'll just change to something that isn't the weather. I have it specifically set to be like, yeah, display the weather. And it'll be like, here's breaking news about a television star dying at age 80. And I was like, I don't care. I didn't ask. Please stop showing me this. Jesus Christ. And it, like, won't go away for several minutes. And then it's like, okay, now here's the weather again. It's like, okay, fucking thank you. I have my own news feed. You do not need to show me this in the widgets. In fact, I would prefer that you not. So don't. God, Windows is so annoying. The most frustrating thing is that it used to be a good operating system, and to a certain degree still is. There are certain, like, basic design things that it is adhered to that, like, make it still recognizable as Windows. The problem is that they fucking in-shitified it. Like, they've consciously made it worse by adding, like, shit that people did not ask for. Excuse me? How did he gain that much ground on me? Did he draft? I mean, maybe he drafted. Mario! Oh my god. He pulled that red shell out just to hit me. He did not have that red shell out when I used the mushroom. I'm using this. Sure. I'll take second. This actually, me talking about the GOP reverting to their old talking points directly ties into another thing that's been happening recently, which is that the GOP is starting to consider their future post-Trump. But here's the thing. They don't have one. I've been saying this for over a year at this point. Almost like, no, yeah, over a year. I think ever since the GOP primary debate last year, I've been saying the GOP doesn't have a future. After Trump, they're done. They don't have anything because their policies are wholly unappealing. They consolidated too early. People are way less reactionary on the whole than the GOP platform is. Obviously, Project 2025 got leaked, so that's even worse. And Republicans, either have to die on the hill of reactionism, in which case they're going to be trying to tap into charisma that they don't have because Trump's going to be gone, or they can go back to the more moderate-seeming neoconservatism, in which case they will also fail because it would look like, number one, they've backed off of the political platform that they've been going with for several years at this point, and then number two, that they're going back to politics that already weren't popular, so much so that they had to go to reactionary politics to begin with. The Republicans are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and they have to choose one. There is basically, I don't think there's a future unless by some miracle of Satan himself, that some fucking, charismatic neoconservative comes along, somebody who can adequately replace Trump, which is really, I would argue, not possible considering Trump's base of support was based off of a cult of personality. Unless all that stuff, all those requirements are satisfied, all those preconditions are satisfied, the Republicans are done. I'm in last, so nobody has the shock. I'm gonna chain this. Hopefully get the shock, and then just spam it if I do. Or, never mind! He had the shock in 8th. Great, thanks. Well, at the very least, I'll get to use this at a favorable spot. Excuse me? I did not drift that way! It even did a spin drift. It knew what direction I was holding. Are you shitting me, game? Everybody has it out for me in this room. I swear, there hasn't been a single race where I haven't got, completely Mario Karted and sniped by, 3 random green shells. Oh my god. This session is so bad so far. Ugh. But look, back to what I was saying. The GOP is finally seeing the writing on the wall. It's been there for a while, and now you see their Republican pundits like Nikki Haley and whoever else going on network TV to talk about what they want the party to be post-Trump. They're trying to basically gradually pull back to neoconservatism, but as I outlined, that shit ain't gonna work. Neoconservatism was so unpopular, even very shortly after the neoliberal heyday of the 80s and 90s, that the Republicans had to go into reactionary politics and fascism to distract from neoconservatism, because neoconservatism, being a subset of neoliberalism, fundamentally just revolves around tax cuts for rich people and like basically exacerbating all the economic problems that currently exist with more of the same kinds of policy making. You know, it is every economic thing that people hate right now. The whole like the entrenchment of tip culture, the lack of regulations, the fucking like weird ass tax bracket where somehow, you know, corporations pay zero in taxes, and then, you know, people in some of the lower income brackets are paying any taxes at all. The fucking rent crisis exacerbated by the fact that there's no like public option for housing, and there's like all sorts of perverse incentives to not build enough housing. People do not like a neoconservative platform, but as it turns out, they also don't like a reactionary, you know, fascist platform. What is going on with this guy? Trump is near single-handedly going to bring Harris as the next president? Yes! I've seen, you know, polls are made by the devil and whatever, but they can be useful for things like trends. You know, like when a series of polls comes out over a period of weeks or months that indicate a certain trend, even if the numbers themselves are not very accurate, it does indicate a genuine shift in opinion, and that can change like expectations and stuff. And the fact of the matter is now, Kamala Harris is reliably ahead of Trump in all the states that like really matter. Oh, let's go. I got 2 megas in a row. And like I said earlier, Harris being president isn't going to solve jack shit. But what it will do is basically give the left breathing room. Give us basically a chance to get to the point where we're faced with the decision, okay, do you make the mistakes of social democracy again, or do you change it up? Do you actually try to go for socialism this time? And, you know, liberals being the feckless, weak kind of political operatives that they are, it also gives us a chance to push against the people that are elected in government. You know, liberals are much more pliable to certain policy demands than conservatives are. You know? What is going on? Somebody's lagging really, really bad, and it's causing me to lose placements. In fact, let's take a look at some of those polls. And the only reason I'm doing this is because they're not likely to change in Trump's favor. That's the thing. I'm not interested in approvability ratings. Thank you. I'm interested in voting intentions. Great. I love the incentivified internet where you can search something that's pretty specific and then it doesn't give you anything even related to that. Thank you, Google. Very, very cool. Did I get the TC glitch? Interesting. Okay. Why did everybody start with Mega Thunderclouds? Is somebody just like for fun hacking? I don't get it. Bombed myself by accident. Classic. Sorry, bro. I'm not taking any prisoners anymore. Not after what this room has done to me. Oh, we got shocked off? That's unfortunate for them. Are you kidding me? My trick didn't come out. I was spamming the button. Jeez. I'm still in second somehow. Also, I'm taking a wild guess, but I think the guy in first is hacking. I didn't commit to it. I was, too scared. Excuse me? Oh my god. What? Who has a fake item box in fucking 6th place? Excuse me? Oh, man. That going for that mushroom and then not committing was what did me in. The entire rest of the race was people deciding, yeah, fuck this guy in particular. God damn. I actually kind of wonder what's going to happen to the Republican Party when it hits, like, an inevitable declining point. Like I said, their policies are already terminally unpopular. All the policies that they could dip into are already terminally unpopular. They're struggling with money. You know, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but, like, Kamala Harris's campaign, one of the ways that they've been running circles around the GOP is how much money they've been raising. You know, because they've adopted a strategy, not that necessarily differs in a way, like, in like a policy way from a lot of their predecessors, but from the perspective of them actually spending the money that they get, and spending the sort of political capital that they have at their disposal. Something that's hard to quantify, but it is a real thing. It's complicated. Republicans, it's not that they're not spending the money and political capital they have, it's that they don't have any to spend. You know? Okay, yeah, that guy's hacking. Oh, nice. I got the TC glitch. I will, I'll hang on to this. Thank you. Dragonite jump scare, yeah. Welcome to chat, also, the Plum General 44. Whoa, what the fuck? Well, I still have the Thundercloud glitch, so we're good on that front. You just gotta avoid all the people in megas around me. Playing RT Worldwise to D-Rust, someone's going backward to pull from a lap behind, and I got minus 100 for 5th? That's rough. Did that bullet go fucking reverse? Yeah, the guy who used the bullet. So you see that Heracross on the minimap that's constantly spitting out? That guy's hacking, and he's currently in first. And I got the Thundercloud glitch at the beginning of the race, so now I'm basically guaranteed second. Oh, okay. Yeah, I imagine indeed. It's even worse because Heracross is my third favorite Pokemon. Yeah, I like Heracross too. That's why I picked him over Wario. If you have unmodded textures, then that guy would appear as Wario on your screen. My number one is Meloetta, and number two is Volcarona. Cool. I've been getting fucked up on the Flame Runner, not gonna lie. Usually with Mach Bike, I don't have as terrible luck as I've been having. Yeah. So to get back to what I was saying, I was sort of like, I haven't played Mario Kart Wii since like 2012. Oh, wow. Well, a lot's changed since 2012. I'll say that much. CTGP, you know what's funny? CTGP nowadays is probably more recognizable to a 2012 CTGP player than like a 2016-17 CTGP player. You lost your disc for like 13 years and found it an hour ago. Cool. Always fun to find an old game again. Yeah. Earlier I was talking about how like I was talking about the fucking bathroom closet of all places. Why the fuck was it in there? It beats me. It's your bathroom closet. I was talking about how the GOP has problems with raising money and having like political capital or whatever the fuck. And I was sort of using that to qualify why, you know, the GOP is most likely on like an inevitable decline. I just started with the TC glitch. Hello? What's going on? But I think another really interesting question for me is like, what happens to the GOP when they sort of hit the point that they like basically die out? Like, what becomes of the GOP? Do you get a do you get a fracture within the party? Do you have to have like a new party altogether? You think he was probably just giving random people TC glitch? No, I think he's hacking because he starts each race with a Thundercloud. Like, he also has TC glitch constantly applied to him, and he's always getting first. I think that bullet bill thing, I think that's a code. It's a proximity code that triggers whenever you're close to him. Great, thanks. Bullets and sends you back to like third. Yeah, basically. Wow, this is really not a good version of Bowser's Castle 2. Just for that ramp section. If that ramp section was fixed, this track would be a lot better. You should just find a new lobby. I probably should. The bullet. I don't know whether I prefer the, like, there's a split in the Republican Party, like, within the party argument, or whether I prefer the Republican Party's actually going to disappear and there's going to be a new political party that takes its place. Or one of the things that I predicted was that there would be instead a split within the Democratic Party. Once the Republican Party goes away, there's like a, you know, the Democrats split into a left and right sort of faction, where the right wing is more liberal types and the left wing is, well, still liberals, but like more to the left. I'm changing to this fella. Flame Runner is not doing me any favors. And I know on some level the speculation about whether or not the GOP will go away, whether it'll split, whether the Democratic Party will split, or whatever it is kind of like meaningless because it's all speculation. But ultimately, it is one of those things is going to happen, right? Because there have been a couple other points in history that are somewhat like that, where like one political party can no longer maintain relevance in politics because their policies just aren't favorable enough, or like they, you know, they're not sort of cultivating a good base of support, or like they basically they have too much baggage, or whatever it is. Like there's some sort of shift in the political discourse that they fail to adapt to. It seems like that's what the Republican Party has been for the past, God, I want to say actually 10 or more years, that they've been failing to adjust, and the consequences of it are only now, you know, coming to fully bite them in the ass, you know, to such a point where it's like, oh, well, what's the future of the party post-Trump? Well, there really isn't one, because they have no sort of charismatic voices that can carry them, you know, and they need a charismatic voice to carry them because their platform is not popular. Their messaging is not popular. What they support is not popular. That doesn't tend to make for a good political party in a two-party system, you know? That also plays into some of the predictions that I made, is that whatever happens, unless some sweeping reforms are proposed to turn the United States into a multi-party system with proportional representation voting, whatever, it is still going to be two parties. The question is just, after the GOP, what is the other party? You know, you have the Democrats. Is it going to be the GOP comes back, but a little different? Is it going to be the GOP splits, and then whatever splits off from that is the new party? Is there going to be a new party entirely? Are the Democrats going to split into two parties now that they're like the one dominant party? Although even that's a few years in the future. You know what? If there's any indication of what is going to happen here, I think the Republicans will probably be supplanted by a well, let's see. What were the other party switches in American history, or like the, you know, shifts in the party dynamic? The Federalist Party died, and the Whig Party took its place as the sort of institutionalist party. And then you had the Democratic Republicans, which eventually became the Democratic Party. The Whigs were gradually replaced by the Republicans, which at the time were a social democratic party. And then the party switch happened. Now it seems like the further to the right party has a trend of like dying out or something like that. Whichever party is like more institutionalist has a tendency to die and be replaced by something more populist, maybe? I don't know if there's any real relationship there. But I would hazard a guess that the Republican Party dying signals a shift to the left. You know? I think that whatever happens, this is one prediction I'm actually very comfortable making. Whatever happens, the Democrats and the liberals might end up being the more rightward option. At least in the long run. I'm sure in the short run, there's still going to be all sorts of like reactionism and stuff, but I think that, you know, depending on the outcome, it could be the case that like some of the more conservative Democrats become the like reactionary anti-immigrant types or something like that. I don't know. That's actually something that I might want to go ask somebody who's a political scientist. Although at this rate, you know, given the kind of shit that I read, I might be even more educated on the subject than they are. I try to go for the glory, and that's what I get. Let's see. So, new lobby, no hackers, that's nice. I'm going to start using this here. Okay. That did not end well. Could have gone worse, but it didn't go particularly well either. Nice. Personally, I don't really care much about politics. I'm in my own bubble now. You will eventually. It's like, you know, there's one person I follow who isn't the most politically effective in their activism, but they're very active and I respect their work a lot. They say, whether or not you do politics, politics is going to do you. So, one way or the other, you are going to come into contact with it. You know, you don't have to take it from me, that's fine, but someday that's going to be what it is. Especially if you're, like, not the absolute most privileged person. In which case, you still engage with politics, you just don't view it as politics, you know? There are plenty of wealthy people out there, like, even the most privileged people say, like, oh, I'm not into politics, and then will act in ways that are inherently political to guard their own self-interest, because that's what politics is. It is a sort of contention over the distribution and production of resources, things, services, you know? But then if you're not the absolute most privileged of the privileged, the way that you're going to encounter politics is that climate change is going to, you know, probably in the next few years start fucking up wherever you live. You know, if you're queer, there's likely to be somebody running for local office or state office or whatever that wants you dead, like you specifically, for being degenerate. Really good race. That last turn is an example of why, like, mock bike is really good. We all know about Thanksgiving dinner politics talk. I just don't like much of shit. Often I get encountered by 13-year-olds being homophobic on Discord because they think it's cool. And I just respond with okay, and that pisses them off so much. That is actually one of the most effective forms of political engagement. You have accidentally become an expert at politics. Yeah. That's good. I think you're handling that situation perfectly. You know? Especially because so much of the politics of, like, those same homophobes, like, the people who are running the right-wing parties in this country and around the world basically have the same brain as those 13-year-old Discord homophobes. I just bully political views that are worth the bullying. True, that's good and based, actually. You should do that. Yeah, if you hear the kind of politics that I talk about, that is not the... Do not expect to be engaging at that level of politics. Like, that's very much not a normal thing. I was the kid being homophobic online, except it was Call of Duty lobbies instead of Discord, and that's fine. Some people have those phases. Look, if you can be convinced or bullied out of that phase, that's good. By responding to those weirdos on Discord in a way that makes them feel weird and like, oh, maybe I'm not normal for doing this, then like you have potentially contributed to somebody not going down the far right pipeline, you know? And I assume that now you are no longer a like Call of Duty lobby homophobe, you know, presumably, which means that, you know, you've done all right. I will now try to front run Baby Park. Ow. Mission failed. We'll get him next time. No! Mission double failed. I don't even play COD anymore. I prefer Garden Warfare 2. Ah. Plants vs. Zombies. Enjoy it. Chaining this. Me item, please. Thank you. I love that they put even more items on Baby Park. You know, the older version of this track, which was like more directly the GameCube version, instead of this, which is a little bit more inspired by the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version, the GameCube version just straight up had like 2 item sets. Alright, 1 mushroom. That should be good. I got 4th. You know, for a little while, there's a segment that I've been wanting to do like a retake of. So let's get into it. If you're new here, my politics are, well, let's say they are to the left. I'm a socialist. And a lot of times people hear socialism, they're like, wow, that's scary. You do not have to agree with any of the shit that I'm about to say, but I kind of want to introduce my politics with a very simple underlying premise, right? Because socialism, as much as it's like very different system, and it can be like, can sound kind of like a daunting concept, even to people who would be like amenable to those ideas, it's pretty simple. Once I get this item, I'll start. There we go. So you have, you know, you start with something like capitalism, right? Liberal democracy, capitalism. We all know what it is. You know, you elect the government officials, etc., etc. You go to work, you have a boss, what, you know, whatever. You guys know how that part works. Socialism is, at its core, just an expansion of democracy. It's DLC to democracy, basically. You know, currently you have democracy in civic life. You know, you elect people in government, and you run the government democratically, to varying degrees, but, you know. And in some countries, you also have a social democracy. There's like a welfare state to make it so that everybody can, outside of their job, engage with society on relatively egalitarian terms, you know? The state provides benefits beyond just having, like, the police and the military. There's an education system. There's free healthcare. There's, you know, publicly maintained roads. There's all sorts of stuff that's funded by taxes and by the government because they recognize, like, we need this shit, so we're going to provide it. You know? But then there's the secret third option, which is to have an economic democracy too. That would be you know, 3 for 3, trifecta. Which is, instead of, you know, going to work and you have to do what your boss says, and, you know, corporates making some dumb fuck decisions that are all about, like, well, how do we get the interest of our shareholders and blah blah blah. No, instead of that, you go to work knowing that you partially own the place that you work at, because it's like a mini democracy. It's like you elect representatives in government, except this time you elect representatives at work. You vote on stuff. You vote on pay scales. You vote on decisions at your workplace. You know, electing managers, union officials, you know, executives every so often. when you have all three of those, you have civic democracy, social democracy, and economic democracy, that's socialism. And that's what I believe in. So, socialism is just democracy plus one. And particularly, you will hear this cited in Monty Python sometimes. There's a good Monty Python skit about this. The anarcho-syndicalist commune. I actually am an anarcho-syndicalist. That's the particular strain of socialism that I identify with. And that's some big boy words, but what it basically means is just, instead of the government that we have currently, you just have basically a giant federation of trade unions who are all elected democratically. And then every business is a workers' syndicate, which means you go there and it's a democratic workplace. You have a democratic workplace, and then instead of the regular government, the government is all structured around labor unions. And that's anarcho-syndicalism. Simple. Democracy, unions, democracy in the workplace, that's socialism. And that's what I believe in. Although, coming back to, the scariness of the word socialism, everybody hears socialism, communism, and immediately associates it with the USSR, which would leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth, including my own. It's probably in need of a rebrand, Just think of, if you hear what I believe in and you think, well, that doesn't sound very much like socialism, just think of it as like, oh, okay, so democracy plus one, or whatever you are comfortable thinking of it as. Anyways, I just thought it'd be nice to give a brief introduction, like a really basic introduction to the stuff I believe, so that people don't have like a million different ideas when I say that I'm a socialist. Or like have all sorts of different conceptions as to like what socialism necessarily is. Yeah, socialism got the balance patch. We need to buff socialism by calling it something different. You went from the cool kid who said the N-word every 2 quadrillionths of a second to being trans girl who says okay to the clones of younger me. Nice. What a glow up, and congratulations, by the way. Yeah, like, Republicans don't realize how insane they were for January 6th, fueled by the Democrats doing absolutely nothing about it. Both sides deserve to be bullied. Yes, they absolutely do. Republicans deserve to be bullied for being massive fascist weirdos, for doing January 6th, for COVID denialism, etc., etc., etc. And the Democrats deserve to be bullied for being so ineffective and incompetent that they've let the Republicans get away with all of that shit and still be relevant in it, like 3 years after an attempted coup on the United States to, like, overthrow a democratic election. We need a dog politician. They would be the best politician the U.S. has ever seen. We actually have one. I think there's a local town where a dog is the elected mayor. Here, look. Yeah, Mayor Max of Idlewild, California. Oh my god. Maximus Mighty Dog Muller II, of course, was a golden retriever dog who served as the second mayor of Idlewild, part of the census-designated place of Idlewild, Pine Cove, California. His deputy mayors, Mitzi and Mickey, were his cousins. Aw. Dog administration. After his death, Mayor Max II was succeeded by his cousin Max III, who was sworn in on December 10th, 2022. Very cute. He also has his Maxmobiles. They are his vehicles. Yes! The mayoral car that the doggy rides around in. That's true. Oh wow, he got me from the side. You have 3 doggos? Nice. There's a shortcut here? There is. Wow, what a shortcut. Paxton, Scooter, and Sassy. How cute. My dad had a dog named, no, not Scooter, it was Cooter. Which, you know, we all know what that one means. Many such cases. Around the corner. I wanted to chain to get another box there, but I realized I wasn't going to get it. Pretty good. Pretty good race. No. Yes. Okay. Love when you make a video on a political person, that video gets blown up by all their fans. Yeah, true. Apparently the Trump mugshot was a huge thing for politics. Yes. I just loved it because Trump had the funniest face during it. Yeah. Yeah, that was great. Like JAR. Yeah, you know what's funny is that I think I actually I was actually too charitable during that video. I should have just skipped the parts where he was talking about movies that I hadn't seen. I should have focused on the parts where he talked about movies that I had seen. Because he lied about some of the movies that I hadn't seen, but I took his word on it because I was like, okay, well, I haven't seen these movies, so this is all the information I have to go off of. And that poisoned the well. You know? So I think my rhetoric could have been a lot better, but granted, like, my man's is still just like, yeah. Yeah, I think I kind of learned from that two things. First of all, when you invoke a larger YouTuber, your shit tends to get more attention. And then also when you invoke somebody who's likely to sick their fans on you, they do that. And then that means you also get more attention. And, you know, it's deceptively easy to deal with. I found a Dairy Queen cheat code? Oh, shit. I'll get the worker to give me vanilla ice cream cup, then I will ask them to put mint syrup in it, then I mix it. Since Dairy Queen doesn't serve mint without chocolate chip. Evil. Wow, they don't? You're right, that is evil. Also, Based an epic cheat code that more people need to know about. I love mint, but I hate chocolate? Really? Chocolate's one of my favorite, like, dessert things. I'm an absolute slut for chocolate. Legit have a yearly notification on my laptop for Shamrock Shakes coming back to McDonald's. I'm a mint slut. Ah, individual of taste. Closing the door on my way out. Plum General 44, thank you so much for the follow. It's always good to have new people here. Wow, it is genuinely night and day. The kind of driving I was doing on the Flame Runner versus the kind of driving I'm doing on the Mach Bike. Yeah. You know, Xylan, since you mentioned like bullying politicians and people on both of the available political parties, the DNC is coming up, like the actual Democratic National Convention, and I covered a little bit of the RNC. I won't be able to do the DNC today, but I might be able to talk about it tomorrow or like the next day. It depends on what they have going on for the like main programming block. But I kind of wanted to see what's going on there because I know that there's been a lot of pro-Palestinian demonstrators in Chicago where the DNC is being held. And it's going to be quite significant to see, like, yeah, right, round 2 coming up. It's going to be quite significant to see, you know, what they start chanting, what are their, like, their kind of demands or pseudo demands or whatever, and how the Democratic Party reacts to that. You know, because, like, obviously the vast majority of people would agree if you said, like, you know, free Palestine or some shit. And the Democrats have been a little bit uncomfortable with anything that, like, deviates from a like more or less pro-Israel line. They haven't had the best reactions in the past. I'm hoping they can have a better one this time. But, you know, we will see. And also, it's probably going to be a little bit more interesting in some respects than the Republican National Convention, because the RNC, everybody sounded the fucking same. Like, everybody was just variations of the same person. And I actually explained how Democratic, a lot of Democratic conventions, or more left-leaning conventions, would be a lot different, because they don't have as much of the, like, giant moneyed influences behind them and stuff. We'll see if that's borne out in this convention. Is that Transy Kong? Yes, it is. I have a trans rights Funky Kong texture. I never really use Funky Kong, but I do have that texture. That's not true. I used him on Standard Bike a couple times, and I used him on Spear, but I don't usually do Funky Kong Flame Runner. Now you remind me of Surly Good Rock Eyebrow. According to my friend. Oh, yeah. Dude, I fucking love the Rock Eyebrow. A friend of mine made me a shirt on Roblox that's like Shy Gal -8. But she has a trans flag logo on it. Oh! Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so cute. I have a, in real life, I have a custom-made, trans rights shirt that I designed. Maybe at the end of stream I can show it, but I've worn it on stream before. It's got the flag in, like, cell phone portrait aspect ratio. And it says John Brown, Trans Rights, Hotel Trivago. And I put some silhouettes of guns on it, and I think it goes hard. No, I missed the box. Remember what my girlfriend threatened to call the police because she got her ass kicked by Queen Bee too many times on Calamity Infernum. That's true. Real police called. Oh shit! Don't hit me! Don't hit me! Okay. Bitch, I'm Queen Bee. I'm gonna call the police on your corrupt ass queen. God damn. No, I'm getting Mario Kart again. Several members of the Conservative Party of Canada gained popularity by straight up bullying the Liberals. Yeah, that shit works. You know how successful the like campaigning line has been, where Tim Walz and Kamala Harris have just started saying, "Dog, the Republicans are fucking weird. You know, these people are weirdos." You know, bullying as a political strategy fucking works. That's why it's called the bully pulpit. The Canadian Conservatives took their lunch money. That's true. Oh shit, they both got owned by that green shell. For once, it wasn't me. Thank fuck. Give me this item. Oh, baby. Perfect. Using this here. So I can get all 3 boost panels. Let's go. Nice! Last second shock dodge. I forget who had that slogan. That straight up won him the election because he straight up bullied the other candidate. Based. Cringe because it's a conservative, but base strategy of bullying your opponent. Like, my opponent is a fucking weirdo, whiny bitch baby. And I'm taking their lunch money. That's why you should vote for me. That's the strategy that Trump used in 2016 and 2020 that sort of gained him some ground. This is just like, he just insulted, like, he charismatically insulted his opposition. He has lost the sauce. He no longer has the sauce. Unfortunately, he's just a husk of his former self. But when he had the sauce, he was going off. And, you know, people go for that. The only political person I would say is someone like me is Blair White, and even I don't agree with most of her stuff. I don't really know any politic people other than U.S. presidents, other major historical figures, Lamau. Well, Blair White is a... yeah, like you said, probably most of her stuff is not very agreeable. In terms of people being voted into office, you're not going to be able to find very much in the way of, like... well, my game crashed. You're probably not going to be able to find very many trans, like, elected officials. But there are a lot of active, like, trans content creators online. Like, decent enough politics creators, too. I don't know. Rest assured, there is better representation for trans people out there than fucking Blair White. You know, I can assure you that. She's basically just the trans equivalent of Dave Rubin. This is a more old school version of this. But the grift that they started on was basically after they came out, they sort of moved to the right, or they started doing more right-wing content. And they made their whole shtick that, like, oh, the left are the real transphobic or homophobic, in Dave Rubin's case, ones, which kind of fell apart as soon as the right just dropped the mask entirely and decided to say, yeah, gay people and trans people are all degenerates and pedophiles, and, you know, please face the wall, and that sort of shit. Like, that grift doesn't really work anymore. Which is unfortunate for them, because, like, them being huge pieces of shit and grifters doesn't make their identity less valid, you know? But it does make them stupid for believing that that they would ever find any sort of acceptance on like those kinds of media circuits. I don't know the full details on that because it happened before I was born. My father told me about it a few years ago. I remember a lot of the details of that. Dave Rubin is the originator of the "why I left the left" meme. That actual phrasing, that's Dave Rubin. I only like George Washington because he heard he got a soldier to help the enemy get his dog back. Like, bro's a legend. Bro is a legend. I don't like him though for you know, various reasons. I'm not gonna be too much of a Debbie Downer on it. But, you know, certified legend behavior that he helped somebody get their dog back in wartime. You know? Like, no, I've lost my dog. He's a good lad. His name is Rufus. Yeah, Ampharos. I have that over Birdo. And he's T-posing. That was that. Dripped out Mario. Some of these models didn't load 100% correct, so they're just like T-posing. What do I want to do? Bullet Bike is like a little bit too much. Remember I had the biggest crush on Rosalina as a kid, Lamau? Oh yeah. You know what? I'll go a few rounds as Rosalina because it doesn't, although it doesn't show on the character select screen, I do have a custom skin for her. It's like the Mario Strikers outfit. She got her soccer clothes. Switzerland? Eh? That ain't Switzerland. That's Antarctica. Wrong country, bozo. L plus ratio or something. But yeah, Xylan, if like Dave Rubin was the first person to, in the age of like the online era, to do that right-wing pipeline where he was like performatively left the left, and he used those exact words. I think he made a segment on like his YouTube channel or wherever he went up, like ended up being, called "Why I Left the Left," and it ultimately just boiled down to, you know, the left are a bunch of meanies. You know, they're mean to me. The right is actually okay with gay people. They were not mean to me. And the little asterisk being, once I decided I was going to leave the left, you know, the right was less mean to me. And ever since then, he's been like a big lolcow for a lot of the old school pundits. Not so old school that you would go into like network TV, but for people over at like the Majority Report from the early days of internet news shows. You go to Majority Report or Kyle Kulinski on Secular Talk, and they will instantly know shit about Dave Rubin. And guess where he came from? TYT. That's right. Before Dave Rubin left the left, before Glenn Greenwald left the left, before Jimmy Dore left the left, all of them were at the Young Turks. There's probably even a couple that I'm forgetting as well. So, you know, whatever kind of veneer of progressivism that TYT puts up these days, it's kind of, for them, it's kind of slipping, and also, like, you gotta be a little suspect. Oh, what the fuck? No, my game crashed again. This makes me a sad boy. One Mario Kart Wii mod that makes it so Funky Kong's replaced by King Boo, but it's only on my end. Like, other people would see me as Funky, or I would be King Boo, if that makes sense. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like King Boo with funky stats. Yeah, and I'm sure that exists. It's more complicated than what I'm familiar with in terms of like Brawl Box modding and stuff, but you can do that. Its Flame Runner is sick as fuck. Yeah. I do have a King Boo skin, but it just removes the crown. All it does is turns King Boo into regular Big Boo. There wasn't like an update or something, right? No, there's no update. What is this? Yeah, look at this. PragerU 7 years ago. Why I left the left. Dave Rubin of the Rubin Report used to be a big progressive. He even had a show with the Young Turks, but now he's not a progressive. Yeah, if you can believe it, a lot of these, you know, right-wing grifters, a lot of them used to be like lefty liberals. Dave Rubin, like I said, Jimmy Dore, if you can believe it. Glenn Greenwald as well. Used to be, he got famous by covering one of Lula da Silva's presidential runs in Brazil. He used to be a really, really renowned journalist. Considering how the presidential debates as of recent have been turning into insult battle, at what point does someone go, you have no Facebook friends or something stupid at a presidential debate? That would greatly make my day. Oh man, I only wish, dude. Yeah, they need to start fucking workshopping that rhetoric. They gotta come up with some shit. Generic rap battles. That's true. Yeah, they should do like a real-ass rap battle for the presidency. Oh, geriatric rap battles, excuse me. Yes. Oh, we already had one of those. It was in 2020. Presidential debate, Friday Night Funkin' mod. God, that would go so hard. I would love that. Hey, you guys get to see the Rosalina skin a little bit. Yo, if that game blew up a year earlier, God, I know how fucking sick would that have been. Every now and then, Friday Night Funkin'. It came out, yeah, it came out in November of 2020. It just, that's not enough time. The election was happening same month, same year. A lot of the campaign cycle was getting started in late 2019 to mid 2020. You know, a lot of the hot button, like, debates and shit were happening the year prior, or, like, earlier that year. You know, there just wasn't enough time. Every now and again, Friday Night Funkin' will put out a genuine banger of a mod. I still play FNF. I've never played it because I fucking suck at rhythm games and I don't like playing them. I'm a white boy. I don't have rhythm. So I don't enjoy it all that much, but I do like some of the songs that they've that some of the mods have made. Like fucking Twinsomnia was a good one. Hypno's Lullaby, absolute banger. And then the some of the earlier iterations of like the Mandela catalog stuff also had some genuine bangers. Indie Cross was fire. I've never seen that one. I'll have to check it out. I might actually I've been meaning to like add some new stuff to my playlist because I've heard some good stuff lately from mostly from Street Fighter, I think, but also from elsewhere. Maybe I'll tap back into Friday Night Funkin' for that. One of my favorite songs is Despair from Indie Cross. Interesting. I'll keep that one in mind. $150. Please don't crash on me this time. Please. I'm just a little boy. I'm just a little birthday boy. Not really. My birthday was like 2 weeks ago. You guys know about the birthday boy meme, right? I gotta go. See ya. See you later. Thanks for stopping by. And have a good one. Birth. That's true. That's you know, many people have said this. Um, the birthday boy meme was like, what is like? This guy who said like I had a friend one time who was like 5'8" and constantly went around picking fights with guys like way bigger than him, and then when they actually wanted to throw hands, he would say like, well, I'm just a birthday boy. It's my birthday. You wouldn't hit a birthday boy, would you? And it would work like 80% of the time or some shit. Dang. Alright, I'm using this. Ooh, go for it. Might get fucked on the bridge section. Okay. At least I didn't get shocked on the bridge. That would have been catastrophic. Now I have triple greens to my name. Whoever's behind me, you may want to, yeah, you may want to avoid that line so you don't run into me. I'm holding on to these greens. This is a good item to have. That way nobody really bothers me. Get that shit out of there. Alright. I'm just a birthday boy, then you get a discount for the money I'm about to steal from you. That's true. Then I will only steal 50% of your money instead of 100% of your money. That's a bargain right there. That's what that is. How am I in first? Hello? Well, I did dodge the shock in the cannon. That's one thing. No, I fucked up. I missed my, like, visual cues there. Alright, give me item. Alright, I'm using this. We cross the bridge, and I get ninth. Okay. Rip. Okay, that race wasn't as bad as some of the other Flame Runner races, so I'm gonna stick with this for the rest of stream, I think. With Rosalina Flame Runner. I kind of like the Mario Strikers outfit. I think I also have the Mario Strikers custom outfit for Daisy. Like both Rosalina and Daisy, I was like, let's give them the soccer outfits. A nice sportive look. And then Peach, I was just like, fuck it, Bowsette. Graceful or swirlies time. Group. I actually never got a swirly in school. For how much I was bullied, I thank fuck that I never got a swirly. That shit would traumatize me for life. I did get a couple wet willies, which is fucking gross. Mostly on the part of the person doing the wet willy. You know? They lick their finger and they put it in your ear or whatever. Like, fucking, why would you do that? Jesus. You know what kind of shit is in people's ear? That shortcut is so good, oh my god. I haven't been bullied. Most kids are scared to say anything to me. Good. I can fight too. That's good. I did boxing for a little while, and I think when I was really little, I took, like, Taekwondo. Which I've forgotten most of course. But it's like, I feel like somewhere in there's some principles of like, fighting. Like, basic principles that would, like, carry you a really long way if something ever happened. Like, if you got into a fight with somebody. I definitely remember more about boxing because of how simple it is than about Taekwondo. I have a friend that does Kung Fu and I got a little rundown one day. That sounds fun. Unless the rundown was sparring and they beat you up, in which case, not as fun. Proper punching fun? Oh boy. Like you learn proper form? Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I think to this day, I think I still remember how to punch through a wooden board. I definitely have the strength to, because it's not the only time I've broken shit, either on purpose or by accident. Or it wouldn't be the only time, rather. From what I remember of proper punching form, in most martial arts, it revolves around not overcommitting to the punch, right? Like, if you get blocked or you miss, you want to be able to, like, not leave yourself so open for so long, you know? You don't want the punch to, like, alter your standing position too much. So if you can find a standing position where it's easy for you to block, and then you throw a punch in a way that lets you still stay standing like that, then it's really hard for them for the opponent to, like, hit you, even if you miss or if they block your punch or something. Because you could just come back to form. The only thing you would have to move would be, like, your arm, or in some cases even your wrist, which is not very much effort or movement. This music is so fire. That would have been funny if I learned Kung Fu and they beat me up day one. True! That sounds like the plot to a fucking martial arts comedy movie. Yeah, I learned Kung Fu. I went into the dojo and got beat up instantly. And they're like, see, you don't know Kung Fu. Because I beat you up. How did I not get hit by either of those? Holy shit. For a second I was gonna be like, watch this insane snipe. But I guess not. Okay, he's got bananas. Oh! Almost! God, that would have been sick if I got that. Oh no, he got hit by the truck. I'm holding this mushroom. If a blue shell comes, I'm relatively safe. Okay, we're good. I also had to take a self-defense unit for PE in grade 11 and took it with grade 9s. Really? You had to do self-defense for PE in school? You took it with grade 9s. God, that's funny. When I was 16, even when I was 16, you know, still not a big guy by any stretch. I remember how much smaller the 14-year-old kids looked, like, by comparison. You go into... Well, I wasn't taking PE when I was in grade 11 anymore. I think they only required it for 2 years. But, like, 11th grade me was looking at 9th graders. Like, God, these people are fucking tiny. You know? Now that's some shit out of a martial arts comedy movie. Kid comes into the dojo, run by, like, a grown-ass man, or, like, the students are all much older. You spar with one of the students, and they just... like, the little kid spars with one of the students that's much bigger. They just beat him up. It's like, goddamn. During the kicking practice, one of the kids completely missed the kicking bag that I was holding during high kick attempt, and he hit me straight in the 2 3D circles. Ooh, I've I've felt a great disturbance in the force. Yikes. Jesus, that hurts. No, I got bumped off. Ah. Can't believe I'm still getting bumped off as the Flame Runner. It's kind of wild. Well, at least I'm not alone in that respect. Oh shit, I get to go up here though. Let's go. I didn't realize what item I had. Okay. Okay, golden mushroom. Where do I want to use this? Well, that answers that question. Star? I have a better idea where I would want to use this, I think. And that is right here. Oh, okay. Free shrooms. Oh my god! God, that was close. Third place, huh? Also, the joke of that class was that you could do a fake out of the exact move where you get their legs as far apart as possible and do a kicking motion right up to that exact part of their body, and they would get so scared. Wait. That exact move where you get their legs as far apart as possible. Oh, yes. Okay. I get what you're saying. Yes. The move where you like basically you stick your leg between their legs and then directly kick up. So you kick them in the balls. Yes, I get it. I'd be scared of that shit. Like that, but you don't hit them, so they react without you doing anything. Yeah. Like you threaten it, like you go as far as you're about to kick them in the balls, and then you stop short, and then like, you know. With this technique, you can almost imagine what trans women experience when they talk about something like the phantom pain. Oh, didn't get a box. Also, that whole salt and... What, salt and vinegar? Still got to some people. I don't know if I'm familiar with that one. Salt and What? You have to finish the sentence, but it's salt and... Salt and... Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. That shit still worked on some 12th graders. Well, I don't know the joke, so it'd probably work on me if you did it. Am I getting ligma? If anything, I would imagine this is some kind of ligma joke. I did alright as Flame Runner that race. Every screw-up is so much more consequential on the Flame Runner than with the Mach Bike. Because with the Flame Runner, you can't turn as tight. It's way harder to make up lost time. You know, and it's way easier for, like, shit to start snowballing. You get, like, domino effect. Twitch added stories to copy Instagram and TikTok. That's kind of wild. Twitch story. Stories on Twitch. Son of a bitch, it did. Limited to qualified partners and affiliates, and stories can only be posted using the Twitch mobile app. Well, I don't use the Twitch mobile app, and I probably don't qualify anyway, even though I'm a Twitch affiliate, so probably not going to see any of that from me. Most likely. I don't know, I open Twitch and just see someone post a story on my For You Above followed channels. That's kind of crazy that Twitch is now doing that. God, I don't know, I'm at the risk of going into a whole rant. I'm really not a fan of short-form content. I think it's, like, the worst kind of ADHD fuel, and I say this, obviously, as somebody who has ADHD. I much prefer long-form content. You know, if you have to have one or the other. The short-form content is easy to lose yourself and lose track of time, which are two things that I don't want. You know? Anyways. Who else is live right now? Cody Schwab. Yeah. We can raid Cody Schwab. Alright. I'm really tired after that stream. I should be back on, like, Wednesday, but it might not be at the regular time. Just beware. So, see you.